Hi everybody, this is Dan Stolbarger. Time for this week's Middle East update. It's the week of January 24th, and let's fasten our seatbelts. All right, let's take a look at what's going on this week. We're going to talk about, of course, the celebration or the remembrance, I guess you would say, the celebration of the liberation of Auschwitz. Never again. Talk about the northern border of Israel, the tunnels there, balloon explosives, the rise of anti-Semitism, stuff we talk about every week. And again, just a reminder of everything that we cover in the YouTube. There'll be much more on the PDF PowerPoint, so make sure you grab that. It's either part of the link of the YouTube page, or you can go to our website at holygroundexplorations.com. And so let's begin with the liberation of Auschwitz. World leaders are attending a Holocaust Forum in Jerusalem. This event marks the highlight of this week's gathering of kings and princes and prime ministers to mark the 75th anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz death camp. Having been there a couple times, all I can say is that Christians, believers, I think need to walk through the death camp just to experience the horrific memories of what took place there, to understand when we talk about the rise of anti-Semitism in our day, to understand the words of never again, to understand Israel and the mindset of the chosen people. Once again, God is not finished with Israel, and I believe it's part of our responsibility as believers to pray, to live a life in such a way that causes them to be jealous, but to pray that their eyes would be open to receive their Messiah, their Mashiach, Yeshua, Jesus. So again, we remember. Let's jump into our news bites. I have to give a shout out to the state of Idaho. Right or wrongly, the first thing that comes to mind when most Americans think about Idaho is what? Potatoes, right? Yet the northwestern state, also known for its beauty and its resources, is also the home to an emerging pro-Israel leader in Congress. The people in our state are generally very pro-Israel, and that's just part of the culture and part of our conservative nature. These words spoken by Idaho Congressman Russ Fulcher. So that's a shout out. On the opposite side of that, sort of, again, the darkness of what takes place with brainwashing people, thinking that Islam is we know it to be a culture and a religion that exalts death and martyrdom. A Jewish victim that was of a stabbing attack near Havran expressed shock that numerous non-Jews just stood by and watched without doing anything to help. He says, "We shouted. I know they heard, but they did nothing." We'll talk a little bit more about anti-Semitism and how it's increasing in our day. Also noteworthy in our news bites that an Iranian lawmaker from their parliament has announced a $3 million award to whoever kills President Trump. And so once again, his name is Hahman Hazem, and reportedly he spoke from the parliament in Kerman, Iran. We're going to jump through these. Again, we tried to keep this 10 minutes, and so my guess is that I won't hit them all, but again, a reminder to grab the PDF PowerPoint. So we've got tunnels up in the north. The IDF has begun installing tunnel detecting sensors along the Lebanese border. As we've talked last week, we know the greatest threat in the eyes of the IDF right now happens to be these tunnels between Israel in the north, spanning from the Galilee area all the way to the Med, with the tunnels that are being developed there by Hezbollah. We've had this week, we've heard more and more about balloons that have been launched or let go from Hamas in the Gaza. Again, there's always explosives connected to these balloons. Take a look at them. And again, there were no reports of injuries, but hundreds of these were launched. The IDF did retaliate, but they were touching down in the southern Israeli city of Sderot. Just a note that in about a month from now, Holy Ground will be having our Talmudim work group in Israel, and we will be in the village of Sderot serving there. So be keeping us in your prayers. Again, we've talked about anti-Semitism. It is now an endemic among the Palestinians. 93% of Palestinians believe such things as the Jews have too much power in the business world, that the Jews think they're better than everybody else, that the Jews have too much control over global affairs. And it starts at the top with Abbas and the Fatah movement, but the tragedy of it all is that Palestinian children are taught the same hate ideology. Children recite poems on official PATV stating that our enemy is Zion. Zion is Satan with a tail, and the Jews were condemned to humiliation and hardship. They're the most evil among the creation, barbaric monkeys and wretched pigs. When you're taught that from early on, you can understand the stabbing, the bombings, the balloons, etc. that takes place. Until that changes, believe me, nothing will change. As we kind of continue on with the Holocaust memorial that's taking place, official newspaper of the Palestinian Authority published an op-ed calling for a terror attack to disrupt this week's Holocaust commemoration at Yad Vashem. Quote, "One shot will disrupt the ceremony and one dead body will cancel the ceremony." There's that peace partner for you. Palestinian libel. You have to find, you got to chuckle a bit with this. The Palestinians are accusing the Israelis, or the so-called occupation, of opening dams in the southern area that gathered rainwater and directed it all to the civilian lands of the eastern Gaza City, flooding hundreds of agricultural areas. And in fact, they come out and say the official PA Daily even came up with an eyewitness who apparently stated that he saw Israel deliberately opening these dams, and it caused the destruction of wheat, barley, etc., and other crops. Here's the chuckle. This eyewitness must have extraordinary vision, X-ray vision, right? Because Israel has no dams in southern Israel that can be opened. But when there is a catastrophe, blame Israel. It's the Jews' fault, right? Keep your eye on Jordan. There's a couple articles here. One in particular that I want to point out is why peace treaties are flimsy. First, you have to understand the depth of the Arab hatred for Israel. The Jordanians are mostly Palestinians, but you have to understand that this hatred they have is strong. The peace treaty is fragile. And again, they're telling Israel they do not want the natural gas pipeline. They don't want to receive that from Israel. The leader of Jordan is allowing their parliament to speak out. They voted unanimously against it, but he knows better, so there'll be back deal channels that they will get it. But just know that there's this legacy of hate that's not going away. So don't talk to me about peace treaties and peace solutions, etc. They have no hope. You'll see the Jordan Valley, Bibi, and even Benny Gantz is talking about annexing the Jordan Valley. This article will tell you as to why that's important for them. Having driven that Jordan Valley from the Galilee down to the Dead Sea, going through places such as Qumran and En-Gedi, you can understand strategically the importance of that remaining in Israeli hands. You can read that article. And then I'll end with the Hey Siri. Take a look at that at the very end. Somebody asked Siri about who is the president of the state of Israel, and Siri responded, Reuven Rivlin is the president of the Zionist occupation state. It has been changed since that time, but I'm not going to be asking Siri too many more questions. So with that, time's up for this week. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Take your stand in this day. God bless you, and shalom.